Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. But who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And it's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, criminal defense lawyer, board certified by the National Board of Trial Advocacy and by the Minnesota State Bar Association. Before we start, guess what? You're never going to guess. Oh, come on, you can guess. This episode is brought to you by eForms.com. What did I say? I said eForms.com. If you need a power of attorney, if you need to kick your grandma out of your house and you need an eviction notice, they got you covered. If your grandma's buying a motorcycle and from you and you need a purchase agreement, you can get that from them. Anything you need that's legal, and they've got all 50 states. So you go to eForms.com rather than hiring somebody like me, because you'll save a ton of money, because guess where I'd go? I'd go to eForms.com. So I go to eForms.com and they will take care of you. Now, today we are reacting to Alec Baldwin. Now, the New Mexico First Judicial District, a district attorney, said that they are anticipating possibly filing charges on 4 people. I don't know who those 4 people are, but we know that one of them includes Alec Baldwin. What do we know about this case? And I said this from the fucking beginning. Remember that? You pick up one of these fucking things, guess what? You are responsible for what comes out of the end of that motherfucker, because they're dangerous. They're inherently dangerous. So you point the gun at somebody and pull the trigger, you are taking a risk, even if you don't intend to. So they are looking at possible homicide charges, gun charges, and I guarantee you manslaughter charges. So those are probably the homicide charges they're talking about. But the FBI in this case did a test of the weapon. Remember, we did a reenactment of, not a reenactment necessarily, but we took a replica of that same firearm, went to the gun range, and tested it out. As you can see right here. You can see by pulling the trigger back, there's a click. And you cannot fire this gun. I'm pulling on the trigger right now, and you cannot fire it. The first click is a safety. You pull it all the way back, then it fires. Now, the FBI tested the firearm that was used in this case, and it functioned normally. And guess what? It's a single 6. It's a single action firearm. And so what is one of the characteristics of a single 6? Okay, let's talk about single 6. What does single 6 mean? It means it has 6 bullets in the chamber. So this is a 6-cylinder. So you can see there are 6 holes for bullets. This is a double action as opposed to a single action. What does a single 6 mean? It means you have to pull the hammer back each time. You can't just go like this. You can't just pull it like that. So the FBI did a test on the weapon, and the weapon itself functioned normally. So that means the only way after you pull the hammer back, it clicks, you have to pull the trigger in order for it to fire. And what does that mean for Alec Baldwin? Remember what I told you about self-motherfucking snitching? And that goes for you putting a spin on shit later anyway. He'd been so much better off. This is what he should have done. Our hearts and prayers are with the family. And taken that tack and just been remorseful about the loss of life. Instead of saying what you did or didn't do, or this wasn't your fault, and that shit should never have been out there. But guess what? Now it is. And guess what? That shit can be shoved up his ass like a fucking corkscrew. And guess what? When you pull a fucking corkscrew out of something, it rips everything out, and his fucking ass is going to be bloody from this case if he gets charged by his own statements that he already made. Shouldn't have happened. Problem is that his handlers, and I don't know that he's got a whole lot of handlers, but anybody doing his PR, they think about PR first instead of criminal defense first. And there's a way they could have put out a public statement that had nothing to do with culpability. He's denied any culpability on this, and I think those statements are going to come back to haunt him, because if it turns out it's not true what he said, guess what? That inference is going to be drawn against him at a trial. And there's no way he tries his case without talking, if he winds up getting charged. One of the more recent pieces of evidence that have been turned over to the prosecutors is Baldwin's phone. And I guarantee you, if there's anything in text messages or phone calls or anything that contradicts his statement, and that's probably why it's taken so long, because they're doing some forensics on some electronics. If there's anything in there, he'll be sunk. But it is kind of almost a res ipsa case. What's res ipsa? Res ipsa loquitur. That means the thing speaks for itself. The fact that it happened almost by itself is manslaughter, because it's so dangerous and you took the risk and you pulled the trigger. You have to appreciate the risk. And so anybody, not only Alec Baldwin, but anybody in that chain and that's why there were probably up to 4 people that might get charged. Anybody in that chain is fair game. So the main issue is probably manslaughter, is probably what the most serious case that they're looking at. The gun charges are kind of probably misdemeanors or low-level felonies, but it's the manslaughter that's going to put somebody in prison. And manslaughter is really just culpable negligence. In other words, that you acted in the face of gross negligence. In other words, you are doing something that's so inherently dangerous. You are aware of the risk. I mean, anybody that picks up a gun is aware of the risk of a gun. You know it's a real gun. And despite that, you proceed accordingly. The defense he might have is that he really didn't have a full appreciation of the risk, because all along he thought that there was a blank in the chamber. But anybody that knows anything about firearms, there's no such thing as an unloaded gun. So we'll see what happens with him, and we'll follow this. But it's playing out exactly like I thought it would. You watch our prior episodes, everything's fucking spot on. So we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers. Make sure you subscribe, follow, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, sign up for Patreon, and we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts.
Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. 23-hour lockdown, please, is that my God.